Broadcasting from the commodity capital of the world, Zurich, Switzerland, this is Insider's Guide to Energy.
Insider's Guide to Energy, ETRM mini-series, brought to you by Fidectis, where post-trading matters, and Force and independent management and consulting boutique, creating impacts for clients and markets.
Welcome to Insider's Guide to Energy, ETRM mini-series, and today we have with us Gen10 and Richard Williamson from Gen10. Richard, welcome to the program.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here today. For our audience and listeners, maybe it would make sense if we start out by telling us a little bit about who Gen10 is and who you are.
Sure. So I'm Richard Williamson, the CEO, founder of Gen10. We just passed our 21st birthday last Thursday. And we've been spending our professional existence trying to digitalize some of these commodity supply chains across ags, metals, and energy.
Well, happy birthday. It's good to
Thank you very much.
You look like a good 21-year-old.
Good 21.
So the ETRM mini-series is really designed, it came out of the fact that I've been talking to a number of ETRM vendors across the spectrum, as has Martin, and we see all kinds of activity. We see a lot of companies trying to reinvent themselves. We see a lot of startups. We see a lot of people just really putting a lot of effort into ETRM. And my question to you is, what's different? You've been doing this for 21 years. So what's happened in the last couple of years? What's going on in ETRM?
Well, obviously, COVID has played a big part in people's decision making and speeding up the decision process to look at other ETRM systems that could perhaps assist them more in a work from home environment. So I think it really has been COVID as a catalyst to get people to look at more modern ETRM systems, looking at cloud. How do we implement remotely if we're not allowed to travel and things like that? So that's certainly been a catalyst over the last couple of years. Functionality-wise, it's been about, needing something more flexible, being able to get more out of the data, being able to visualize the data. We'll be covering a few of these topics later on as well, but, AI, machine learning, how do we get the computer to help generate some insights for us? Probably that over the last couple of years.
All right, so it seems like you're attributing a fair amount to COVID. How about renewables? How does that play into what's going on? Is that in your sector and the commodities you do, are they making an impact as well?
Absolutely. I mean, as people need to diversify their portfolios from, a contract of having some coal ships regularly coming in to use up at the utilities, you're needing to find energy generation sources from lots of different places. The kind of impact that has on an ETRM system, it gets it more complicated, gets it more physical. Gets it more diverse. You've got a portfolio of different inventories that are coming in different ways, different formats. So yes, that has been that trend as well has put a lot of pressure on ETRMs, and perhaps that's why a lot of them are coming back to market today.
Okay, so understood that renewables also impacting. I understood your business or your solutions, but maybe in a bit more details. What does that mean exactly for your offerings, your solutions? How do you incorporate that change in the market in terms of renewables?
Yeah, well, I mean, we come from a physical agricultural background. I was a cotton trader before Gen10. And for the first 10 years, it was just cotton. And what I would say is that the challenges and all of the exceptions to the rule that cotton creates for computers around quality changing, weights changing, values changing. It's it's around the inventory controls, around the workflows and things like that, that the problems that we needed to solve during our first half of our lives, and seeing how that was then easily translated to other commodities, bulk commodities, 60,000 tons or whatever, but also how metals need to be managed, coming up to renewables, where you have inventories of lots of different qualities, lots of different parameters that affect the final price and who you allocate, which inventories you allocate to who. It's sort of we went through all the hard learnings earlier on before we started bringing things to the cloud.
Okay, understood. So what I hear out of that is that your solution covers quite some commodities, not just power and gas maybe, but I understood more, and you mentioned cotton and also then bulk products. So can you explain a bit and describe also for our audience what your typical target clients are and what their business usually is and what you, according to that, focus on?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do over 100 commodities now, all on the same code base, all on the same platform. And our sweet spot is anybody who needs to physically move stuff, right? Whether it's a commodity or something else, to be honest, but it's around the shipping, the logistics. People who have a big operational demand from a computer system. These are the people that we serve best. Yeah, people who need to ship things around the world, keep track of it, make sure the trade finance is in place, look at inventories all over the world, and be able to price it correctly.
So you talked about, so I get that there's people shipping things, and I get the risk element of that there, but visualization. So you mentioned broadly in the opening statements that visualization or reporting or whatever needs to change, or is one of the drivers for change.
Mhm.
So describe what kind of changes are needed there. What are you seeing, and what would you expect a modern system to do?
Yeah, changes that we're seeing. I mean, I think mostly to do with the original technology that people would use for the ETRMs. Not so easy to stick a dashboard in there to visualize your inventories or your long position or whatever it might be, your operational performance, key performance metrics, whatever. I think that's actually the simple bit. The difficult bit is making sure that all of the data, the underlying data, is there, present, and that you can get access to it so you can make whatever visualizations you want. So the challenge, I think, historically is being able to get access to that data so that you can leverage other visualization tools, whether it's our own dashboard module, or whether it's Power BI or ClickView, whatever the external thing is. The job is making sure, A, that the data is clean, that it's in the right state in its workflow, and that you have the APIs in place so that you can consume that data in whichever way you want. I mean, no two trading companies have the same position report.
So you're a 21-year-old company. So I assume that your architecture is morphed or grown with the times. If you're telling me that it's about to get the data, so is that part of what you're doing right now? Are you a cloud-based architecture today? You talked about modules and things like that, or are you a combination? Or are you still migrating?
Yeah, no, we're fully cloud. I mean, we had looking back, we had the fortune to recode all of our technology stack back. We started around about 2008, 2009. We were Lotus Notes back then. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
But in terms of, a lot of the things, contracts, shipping documents, it's all about workflow and communication and that kind of stuff. And so when Lotus Notes sort of ceased to be, it's like, okay, well, there's an existential event for us to try to navigate. So we started moving things over to the cloud early on. And part of that process was We don't want to be we don't want to be tied too much into any one particular technology. Let's try and keep things modular so that we don't have any obsolescence issues later on. I say future proof as much as you can, of course. Um, and yeah, so we've had maybe 13 years of developing cloud solutions. I mean, we're on our sixth version of our cloud platform today. So whether that answers your question enough.
It does, but having been in the software business for some period of time, cloud is a very ambiguous term and it means many
It is.
things to many people. So maybe it'd be helpful if you describe what you mean by cloud and what your implementation is.
Right. Okay. So multi-tenanted across lots of servers. That's then managing a lot of clients and the stuff that they need to do. What it's not is a sort of a screen scrape or putting some sort of cloud window onto the old database. I mean, we had a complete rewrite of everything. I mean, from Lotus Notes, you have to. So having your SQL databases, having the web servers, having the browser languages. So having a browser interface, having it looking nice as a web page should, rather than a database sort of look and feel that was around at the time. So yeah, multi-tenanted. It's not hosted on our servers. It's hosted on AWS or Azure or whatever, and web browser, mobile first, that kind of technology.
Okay, cool. In that context, I mean, how does, or what I can see is that clients, when they move to the cloud or get new solutions that are in the cloud already, it's quite a effort sometimes for them for integrating their solutions, their systems that they have, their processes. So how does this integration look like for a Gen10 user or client that is maybe new? And do you support the client along that journey?
Yeah, sure. No, it's a very good point. I would say it's easier to integrate today. You need the APIs, you have web services available to you, as well as, the lower tech flat file sort of transactions. But, that it's centrally managed for us rather than we have to try to maintain things on our client servers. You have a huge, you have a huge benefit there. In terms of scalability, etc., in terms of response times, and in terms of the overall, the end of the day bill for time and materials, for example. So we needed to make sure that we had our APIs in place, that we had web services so that we could have deals come in to create contracts in our platform. Let me say that when we approached this, we thought, let's not do another monolithic system. Let's make this modular. Let's make an ecosystem of things, because we will do stuff that we're good at, and there will be other services out there that, rather than us try to build and compete, that we should be, working better together with these other offerings, so that the client at the end of the day is able to make use of technology sensibly, but without that huge expense that they were at the time accustomed to, and to get a more nimble footprint, a more nimble ecosystem sort of technology stack.
Okay, so would you say that Gen10 solution is based on a microservice architecture?
There are microservices involved. I mean, we did try back in the day to let's go everything microservices. Fortunately, that was at a time when Google was starting to say, hold on a second, maybe that's not the best thing, because the time that it takes, all the latency that can be involved when you have to go to some other service, authenticate in order to get a conversion of a unit of measure or something like that. So microservices in their place is fantastic, but it's not the be all and end all for a cloud-based solution. Modular, I think, is better. modular with APIs, I think, is a better way to think of a cloud offering, I think, than microservices.
Okay, understood. And in terms of user interaction, I mean, I strongly assume, of course, there's a UI where users work on the screen directly. And in case there is maybe services or functionality that the user would like to have, is it possible for the user, beside building it outside and connecting it via the API, is it also possible that the user can develop it within the Gen10 solution as a service, for example? So having something like
For
an integrated development environment where the user can then build own functionality.
yeah, they tend to rely on us to do that. It's not. They have a lot of things at their disposal in terms of the configurability of the system, the look and feel, the how things are presented on the screen, and users have a lot of preferences and everything. But when it comes to integrating, we'd be working with their teams, if you like, to develop those web services so that we're connecting correctly, and you know. But it's something that takes days to weeks these days. It's not a big, huge integration monster of a project. Yeah.
Okay, understood. Would like to refer back or go back a bit to the topic data that you mentioned, because I think that's really a very crucial topic for all players, almost all players in the market, to have their data straight, ideally centralized, to get most value out of data. What was a bit unclear to me when you explained your, let's say, strategy or what role data does play for you was if Gen10 as a solution is also a data management solution. So maybe you have a module that collects data, stores data, validates data, and distributes data, or whether this is something, a functionality that you rely on the client to solve. So maybe the client has a central data management solution that you connect then via API to your functionality and your solution. So how does it work in terms of data storage and distribution?
I mean, we do manage an awful lot of data across somebody's physical supply chains and how they need to hedge it and how they need to finance it. So yes, we are data managers within our realm. If you talk, but we also assist in creating a data lake that is getting our data into the data lake and getting other data from other sources into that one place so that they can have they can run their analytics across not just our CTRM data, but other apps that we have around sustainability or marketplace activity and stuff like that, or with other software as a service, other platforms out there as well. So yes, a lot of data to manage ourselves, and we make sure that it's not just the data, but it's the state of the data, because workflow is such a huge part of people's business in these supply chains. But it's about making sure that our data is accessible and consumable by something else, such as a data warehousing solution, where they can bring it all together.
Okay, and do you have clients that manage their data purely through your CTM solution that do not really have a data lake or a centralized data management,
Yeah, we
but
do.
rather
Most of
import
them.
it to your? Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so it seems like you provide some very good data management functionality then, because that's by far not easy to manage data in a streamlined way. Data versioning, audit proof, reconciliation. So
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, we couldn't do it after our first birthday, but
yeah.
we're 21 now. So yeah, we've been through the mill a few times in order to get to where we are.
Okay, understood. So in terms of cloud solution, coming back, I mean, jumping a bit back now, how does your support and maintenance model look like? Is it a fully serviced solution, or
It's pretty
yeah?
fully managed service. The idea is that first of all, the technology side is not a headache for our clients, other than making sure that the internet connection is as reliable and as fast as they can afford. And yet we look after all of the rest of it, so that the ideal world is, and it's a real world for us. Our clients log in, username and password. They get the business end of things done on the platform. If they've got a question, you've got digital videos that you can refer back to, which gives everybody a lot of scalability and on-demand knowledge. And then of course we're always available for direct contact if they need any additional help. But it tends to be for new projects, which is exciting.
Okay, I'll go ahead and ask. I've been here patiently waiting for an opportunity. So, I think what I heard you talk about the data. You talked about being in the cloud and being modular architecture. I guess I'd be interested in maybe switching gears and talk about an ecosystem of partners, and do you use that modularity just internally for modules that your customer might want to use, or is the modularity offering also partners in an ecosystem kind of environment in your solution?
Absolutely. I mean, yes, it is for our modules and our other apps as well. But it was seen as, we're not going to do all of everything for everybody. That you need to be able to connect and leverage other people's technologies, so that the client has the best of breeds, ability to digitally transform today, rather than wait 5 years for the technology to be old in time to start using it.
So based on that, so of the core competence, what are your strengths then? Like where would you say, hey, go to Gen10, these modules you definitely want to get from us, and then maybe paint a picture of how some of your customers might augment the solution. What would they be adding in?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, everything from pre-deal through to, we have a fully fledged contract management module that can be standalone in itself. You don't need all of the rest of the modules. It's quite surprising how many contracts still need to be done outside of the current ETRM system in order to get it correct. And the whole workflow process, the digital signatures and everything. But everything really starts from that. We have a CRM module, we have our contracts, and you get that contract piece right. It makes the scheduling, it makes all of the operations, it makes the communication between front, middle and back office work so much better together. Through the logistics, the shipping, opening and chasing and opening of the letters of credit, workflowing release requests to the bank before some inventories can leave the warehouse or the silo or whatever, all the way through to invoicing and payment. Where we would integrate is with an ERP or an accounting system, general ledger. We have all of the costs and we have all of the revenues, but we would integrate with an ERP system, whether it's SAP or whether it's Microsoft Dynamics Business Central, Great Plains, Sage we've done. We're doing NetSuite now. NetSuite's getting very popular in the States. We're integrating with like vessel satellite tracking services, obviously things like Google Maps and other APIs that we can leverage. And we do get asked a lot, how do we reconcile with our broker statements better? Which is why I like a lot of what Fidectus is doing. Things like that. I think when blockchain platforms start to gain traction, it'll be a lot about integrating with those and how we have our workflow engine. It's critical to being able to communicate. Our workflow engine, our web services, is critical to being able to communicate with these blockchain platforms in a two-way process too.
So I heard quite a number of interesting functionality and components that you provide to your users. What about valuation and risk management? So to measure your performance on a daily basis or weekly basis, monthly basis, and also, of course, having the right risk numbers in place to monitor whenever you need to react as risk manager.
Yeah, sure. So, we bring in all of the prices from the 100 plus commodities that we manage. We have a formula engine that helps people construct some pretty exotic pricing formulae, pygas, benzene, those kinds of things, copper concentrate, a whole other beast where you've got 3 or possibly even 6 different commodities that need to be priced, along with a number of different penalties for contaminant particles, etc. So getting the pricing sorted, the first thing, and then the hedging module for your paper futures options and your OTC trades as well.
Okay, so your system can, at the end of the day, spit out a P&L so that a trader or mid-office or risk person can see what the current M2M is and maybe realized P&L. And on top, a user can also see what the underlying risk is, if some limits have been breached or if the VAR is maybe exceeded. So that's standard functionality, right?
Correct. Yeah, and the beauty is that they can design their own key performance indicators and their own risk limits, and by establishing those, I come back to our workflow engine. When somebody wants to pass go to collect $200, they need to go and check these KPIs before something can be approved or before a shipping instruction can be sent. They go and check the global credit limit for the month or whatever it is. Before a trade is done, go and check these KPIs that my client has set up against them to say, yeah, it's okay to trade with them at the moment. So it is very, very integrated, comprehensive, but with a vision to, as other services become available, that we can leverage those technologies by integrating with them. And it's so much more possible what you can. That doesn't make sense. The kind of things that are possible today because you're in the cloud environment, it's chalk and cheese to experiences over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah. And what about position management as one other key component or functionality? Is that available? At least if I look at a short-term power trader, that's the key source nowadays with all the renewables and the volatility, to be at any point in time able to see your positions more or less real time. Is that also a strong requirement in the commodities where your clients are active? And if yes, how does it work in your solution? Yeah?
But it's measured more in days, I guess, rather than in minutes in power. But if you have an ETRM system that doesn't give you position management, question is, you've got to ask yourself bigger questions than, to evolve that question, though, a position report, for example, there is no one position report, even if you stick within the same commodity. Everybody has their own sort of take. And our job is to find where are the constant commonalities and where do we need to build in additional flexibility so that they can slice and dice their position in different ways. Hopefully we'll get to talk about carbon and environmental markets shortly, but how you can massage and how you can extend your position reporting is key, because otherwise you're locked and confined into this box that, as going back to your renewables, your old position report doesn't work when you have all of these different sources of inventories that you need to manage.
Okay, understood. I think you mentioned a brilliant word here, carbon. That's, I think, not just important for your clients, but all over the industry. utilities, but also
The world, maybe.
chemistry. Yeah. So maybe elaborate a bit more. How important is that for your client base, and is, of course, then for your solutions and offerings?
Yeah, I mean, so Gen10, we didn't set out to be a CTRM vendor. We wanted to provide digital solutions to facilitate commodity supply chains more sustainably, more efficiently, and more profitably for our customers. And a big part of that was to show how being more sustainable is not a cost, because people, when even today, some people think of sustainability as being a cost center rather than a potential for profit. But to show how those things can work better. So we were looking around carbon in Carbon 1.0, 2008, 2009, and I mean we're really excited. I mean to coin my colleague's phrase, the world's gone bonkers in terms of what's happening in the carbon markets today. And it affects everybody. It's not just commodity traders, but it's the commodity consumers, it's the end consumer, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a big part, and we're just glad that we have another opportunity, and it looks like it's here to stay this time around, where we can help facilitate the movement of cash towards much needed projects at the origination of carbon credit side, and managing the the huge volatility that we're going to see in the carbon credit market on the consuming side, where people have a footprint that they need to measure their risk against and see how much it's going to cost them to get these carbon credits, and to help facilitate that flow of cash, and to help around the concerns around fraud, concerns around greenwashing and things like that. Data plays a more important part in carbon than anything else, because you can't see it. So you have to be able to track it digitally. And this is something that's been a passion of ours for ever since I came down to Brazil to try and plant bamboo as a carbon sequester back in 2010, for example. But yeah, and we just went to market around COP26 with our brand new platform, Net Zero OS, which is all about managing those portfolios, managing those credits, and managing the volatility that people will be facing over the years.
So I understood, Richard, that you launched quite recently a platform, as per my understanding, that helps clients to manage their carbon inventory. And I think that's something that will be more and more important in the future for more and more companies in the world. So maybe you can explain a bit to our audience, what is it about and what it exactly provides to the user?
Yeah, so again, we've taken the ecosystem approach, where we have different modules for different things, because it's all about digitally transforming these processes. So we have things at in the carbon, you have the origination of the credits. You have the people who are buying and selling the credits on the registries, and compiling portfolios to package up for utility companies or for FMCG. The biggest 1,000 companies in the world will have this huge net zero commitment that they need to manage, and whilst they'll be improving on their technologies in order to reduce the impact, they will need to use offsets, right? So it's not greenwashing; it's finding ways to finance projects for planting trees or for cook stoves in Africa, where that money wouldn't otherwise be available to do those things. So it's great to be part of it, to be honest. And so you look at it in terms of, so we have something that will help vet and audit a potential project for investing in. So we call that audit, aud.it. And that's a way of setting up your KPIs to do your due diligence on the project. We have a marketplace to help with the offers and bids and the transacting to converge those offers and bids into a trade. So nice, marketplace board there for the pre-deal negotiation digitally. and that itself integrates with our Net Zero OS that will manage then the rest of the contract, the inventories, the allocations, the pricing of these, because some of these are long-term 30-year projects that you need to price. And as this, it's a nascent market again in its second running, but it's going to quickly become more mature, where you will have established price indices. I guess IFS Market, SP Global, they're all trying. There'll be a bunch of other registries out there as well. And then for the utility companies, for the FMCG companies, where they need to measure their carbon. There's thousands of carbon calculators out there, but once you know what you've got to do, it's the business end of being able to manage all of that is what we do. And so we tackle it from both sides, the origination and the people who need to do the offsets. And you've got that full traceability that we learned from cotton. You have so many different qualities, grades, and pricing components, premiums, discounts, the ability to add other ESG goals, premiums to it. It's fascinating, and it's great to be part of it. Yeah.
So is that you said it's a newer product for you? Is that out in commercial use right now? That product?
Yes. It's been a few years in the making, it's going great guns.
And so
And of course, it certainly segues back to the commodity clients that we have, where they need to manage something. So we have something where they can not only trade the oil, the hydrocarbons, the metals, and the cotton and the grains, but they can also set up a carbon desk straight away as well within the same ecosystem. So that's great. But then there's also the impact that they need to reduce. And so any offsets they need to buy themselves, we can integrate those systems together then to give that full transparency, that full traceability back to origin. Yeah.
So is this uniquely a Gen10 thing, or do you see your competitors going down a similar path?
I don't know what's happening in the CTRM, ETRM space. The competition is the people who have been in the environmental markets part and the carbon markets. Like I say, there's thousands of calculators out there. There's a lot of project management tools for managing the reforestation projects. So yeah, it's a sector that we're expecting to be really exciting over the coming years. Yeah.
Cool.
So, but what I understand a bit is your USP might be that you combine both. You have on the one side a carbon calculator, but at the same time, and I think there are many calculators, as you mentioned, at the same time you integrate it with the daily trading business for traditional trading, oil, metals, whatever clients are looking at. And that sounds, to my understanding, a bit front running. How do you see that?
It's nice to hear you say so. We think so too, of course. But it's a product of a number of years of looking at it. And my colleague Bruce Tozer, he was there in Carbon 1.0 with JP Morgan, setting up the first carbon markets thing there, and waiting patiently over that decade or so to now. It looks like something. Well, it's definitely happening now. So it's great.
Yeah. And are you getting approached by potential
The phone has been
clients?
ringing off. The phone has been ringing off. No, it really has. It's been great. And again, coming back to all the lessons we've learned to get things in the cloud and how we help to onboard people. They need solutions in there now because their spreadsheets don't pass due diligence, or it's an older system or something. But that we can deliver it quickly, that we can give them a fully managed service so they can focus on their carbon impact and try to reduce try to honor the net zero commitments, and we'll manage the data side of it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for elaborating on your new product on net zero carbon in that context. Really interesting. I would like to, since we're moving towards the end, change the topic a bit to automation. You can talk 2 or 3 minutes about that part. Usually we ask ETM vendors that have a strong focus on power and gas what they are offering in terms of automation, explicitly in terms of algo trading or automated trading. So in that context, is that a topic on the rise for your clients to have rule-based trading strategies in place?
Yeah, I mean, on the power and gas side, I mean, it's great what Fidectis have done there in those markets, and we can't wait for them to start providing the same kind of services in these other, more physical, less commodity-like commodities, with all of these exceptions. When something's very standard and clean, it's easy. But when you see some of the broker statements that we see that we try to OCR and reconcile with, if we had the resources, we'd be looking at it as well, right?
Well, we should probably talk about that. So this is a podcast. Fidectis is my day job. This isn't a Fidectis show. We certainly do broker statements today, and we do carbon today. So we can talk about that offline from Fidectis' point of view.
Fantastic.
But yeah, happy to do that anytime I get a chance to talk about my day job. But I guess back to Martin's point is it relevant to your core competence in the algo trading? Is there a crossover point, or is it more like you're saying because it's clean and the speed of power and gas is maybe different? Is it a different game?
Well, where you have a lot of OTCs, for example, have you heard of any algo trading in the OTC market in petrochemicals, for example?
Maybe. Well, I think if you have high liquidity and a bit of a standardization, it can work. But I'm far away of an expert there, so maybe I see a bit of you.
Yeah, I'm segueing not to avoid the question, but the bigger question there is, and blockchain as well. The reason why I like blockchain and the reason why I like this topic on automated trading, underlying it all, it's a standardization phase that everybody needs to go through so that we can find some sort of pattern that you can safely automate. If people have a remit to be 100% hedged all the time in real time, if those futures trades, and I mean, there's a lot of future trades obviously that are standardized and you can do that, but if it's not just that, if you're doing swaps I haven't found a client yet who wants a computer to make sure that they're fully hedged yet. It's kind of like how they were a bit nervous about cloud back in the day. They're not today, but they still need somebody involved in some of those decisions because there are a number of variables at play. But as things get standardized, and in the gas market, especially in Europe, with the work that's gone on there to standardize things, you can now do that. So that's the big topic moving forward. And I've been on plenty of podcasts that have been on that soapbox about. So.
Yeah, so I guess we got the answer to the automation. But it begs the question to me: where's your general footprint globally? I think we talked a little offline before we entered, but for our audience, where do you generally have your core footprint of users?
Yeah, I mean we don't have thousands of customers, but I mean we are in Europe, we are in Asia, and we are in the Americas. So it's global. Where are the most? I mean, we see there's a lot of things happening. Well, there's a lot of things happening everywhere. Pointless to say a lot of things happening in Singapore today because it's equally relevant in Geneva and London and in the States as well. So
Yeah.
And I'm over in Brazil, so there's a lot of things happening on the ags and forestry and the solar markets down here that need some help on the computer side of things as well. So.
Awesome. Martin, as we're approaching towards the end of our time, any areas that you still think we should cover that we neglected in this interview today?
No, I think we should move on. Fantastic, yeah.
All right, so I think we've got a pretty broad brushstroke, and we've gone all over the place. What I propose we do is we switch gears now and go into our speed round. Our speed round is 10 questions we've asked every vendor participating in our ETRM mini series. Basically, we're just going to alternate back and forth. I will start by asking the first question. I'll revert to Martin. We'll go back and forth. Just short answers is fine. If you want to elaborate, or if one of us asks a question, feel free to do so. So here we go.
Okay.
First question. Will the number of vendors for ETRM solutions shrink or expand in the future, in your opinion?
Expand.
Why?
There will. There's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of desk spin-offs.
It's great.
I'm trying to keep it short for your 10 questions.
No, that's good. I was just curious. Yeah, that's great. Martin, you're up.
Okay, brilliant. Second question. How many deals per minute must a modern ETM or CTM system today be capable to import? Per minute. Deals per minute. Yeah.
That's in your power and gas side, more relevant. Yeah. You can have a different second question if you like. Do you have 11 to choose from?
I would assume that in that context, your solution, since you provide standard APIs, would not have an issue importing more than 2 or 3 deals per minute only. That is my understanding. If we look at your solution,
it's hundreds a minute is the possibility. We just don't have clients who need to bring in hundreds a minute.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. All right. So, what commodity types or energy types are you offering today, and which ones are your biggest strengths?
In energy, it's around hydrocarbons, oil, petrochemicals, and if you can say the carbon element of that, yes. So,
okay. Do you offer a real-time position management module, and is a new trade in real time reflected there? So is it an event-based architecture behind it?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Do you have an automated workflow for straight-through processing?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Can your ETM or CTM solution price Asian options?
Yes.
Which model is behind it? If you know that by heart.
I don't know. I just know that they are valuing those over there, and I've not seen any support tickets.
Okay, fantastic.
No worries. All right. Are you offering a full integration and implementation service?
Yes. Because we're in the cloud, it's a lot easier to do, and we have a lovely process for onboarding people digitally and in the ether.
Thank you.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest threat or challenge for a third-party CTM vendor?
The biggest challenge, biggest challenge for them or biggest threat to us? Sorry.
Let's say threat to you, like technology or I don't know, regulatory impact.
Someone to do it better, faster, and cheaper than us. But they'd be doing a fantastic job if they could.
Okay.
All right. What does your licensing model look like today, and do you anticipate changes in it in the near future?
We're a software as a service subscription-based model, and some are user-based and others are transaction-based. Others are volume-based. It depends on a number of things, which sector, which part of the supply chain you're in, etc. Okay. Do I see anything changing in the future? Probably not. No, I think that's how it'll be for a while.
All right, thanks.
Okay, then last question is probably an easy one for you. So are you offering API or APIs, and what is the technology behind it?
We have APIs. You're asking me technology questions. I mean the RESTful
Okay.
web services.
Okay, great.
Well,
Thanks.
fantastic. You've gotten through the 10 questions successfully. I appreciate that.
Thank you very
What
much,
I'd
John.
like to give you an opportunity to do is an opportunity to maybe bring this all together in more of a concise way, a minute or two description of why our audience might want to reach out to Gen10.
Sure. I mean, if you've got a lot of commodity, a lot of different commodities moving around the world, and they need to be priced in whether it's vanilla ways or very exotic ways. Um, you know, we have our main focus is around operational risk and making sure that the ground level things are done for you correctly, responsibly, and with the correct audit trails that you can then make sound business decisions on. So I think that operational risk is key to everything, really. I think. Is that sufficient? Maybe we can
We
cut
can
out
cut
some.
and do that again if you'd like, but it seems
I-
sufficient.
But uh, yeah, it's around that. And of course, if you have some carbon exposure that you're trying to trade or whether you're trying to offset, you should certainly give us a call because we we have some solutions that will make that job a lot easier, and it's available today.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. We've enjoyed having you on the ETRM miniseries. Thank you for participating.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Martin. And I think what you guys have been trying to do to get the vendors together on these podcasts is a good project. I'm happy to support it.
Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you so
Richard.
much. For our audience, this concludes another episode of Insider's Guide to Energy ETRM miniseries. Don't forget, there are 13 episodes out there. If you haven't listened to every vendor, please take a look at the website, Insider's Guide to Energy. Each vendor has a page and links, and you can find the data there. And we look forward to hearing feedback from you, our audience. Thanks again for listening. Have a good day.